Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly Podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lifford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner Podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
From installing a smart garage door opener, to installing a bathroom faucet, to removing a tree, the Home Depot believes you can do anything, especially the things we have how-to guides for. Visit HomeDepot.com for thousands of tips, workshops, and ideas for projects, big and small. The Home Depot app, how doers get more done.
This week, we'll share with you a few tips on how to open those stubborn windows. If you don't use your windows a lot, they're hard to open, sometimes almost impossible. We'll give you some tricks so that you can get some nice fresh air in your house. Also, we're going to share with you our fall checklist from our 4 seasons of home ownership. This is just the few things you need to do around your home to make sure you're properly maintaining it. Also, we'll touch on some cabinet repairs and tips on positioning skylights in the proper way in your home. And what about a simple solution, Joe?
All right, Danny, you know how when you're using portable power tools and some lawn equipment that the vibration can really cause your hands to get sore quickly. So I've got a quick tip on how to prevent that.
Oh, I'll be listening to that. That's great. Okay, let's get going. Let's go right to the Today's Homeowner Hotline. Barbara is on the line. Barbara, welcome to the show, and tell us what's going on with these windows.
Thank you, Danny. Well, we had some aluminum windows put in some years back, and it's like they're in there so tight. Some of the panes have even cracked, but our main problem is we can't get them open now to let in fresh air. Is there any secret to opening these windows?
Well, with aluminum windows, we can assume that paint is not the issue. It's probably just inactivity because people really, they just don't use their windows that often. And also, there could be a little bit of oxidation that might be kind of binding the fixed panel and the opening or movable panel together. So either way, I think you're going to need to use some lubrication in there to get some oil drip down into those areas that's common. And also the slides, they have different types. Some of them have little rods on either side. Some of them have almost nothing on the sides. But either way, that's where the friction can take place, and you'd have to kind of loosen that up a little bit. Joe, what other suggestions would you have on that type of window?
Yeah, Barbara, I assume these are double hung windows. These are the sash slide up and down. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, what they recommend for metal windows that are sticking, as Danny said, is usually it's paint is the problem on wooden windows, but here what they recommend is you buy a silicone spray lubricant. You can go to any home center. Home Depot carries a couple of different brands. Make sure it's silicone based, but it comes in a spray. And what you would think you'd do is just spray it on the window. But before you do that, on the window mechanism, is first vacuum it and use a brush or a vacuum, get all the dust or dirt off as much as you can. And then what they really recommend is you spray it onto a dry cloth. I like using those microfiber cloths. Those are great because they don't leave any lint behind. But in any case, spray it on a cloth. And then wipe the inside and outside of the window tracks, the jam liner, which is the vertical sides of the window, and even the weather stripping. Then open and close the window several times. Hopefully that'll loosen it up that you can get it moving, and then add more lubricant as needed. If that fails to move it, then I guess you could spray it. Why they don't recommend just spraying it on, I'm not sure. I guess they're concerned, if you get too much lubricant on there, that can start attracting dust and dirt and might worsen the problem. But spray lubricant is what you need to use.
Okay, great. I would not have thought of the oxidation issue, but that all sounds like doable things.
Oh, good.
It's a good time of the year to crank those windows open and get that fresh air in the house. So
absolutely.
Hopefully this will help facilitate that. And Barbara, we appreciate you being a part of the show today.
Thank you so much, Danny and Joe.
Hey, we have an email we want to get to here. This one's from Hannah from Rhode Island, who writes, "We want to update the hall bath in our 1960s home, but everyone keeps telling us we will be without it for weeks while the tub and shower walls are demolished and all the work is being done. The bathroom desperately needs to be updated, but we can't really afford to lose it for that long. Is there another option?" Well, Hannah, you're not the only one in that situation, and I've been there myself. So that's a really good question. Removing and replacing a tub and shower surround is a very big job that requires several trades get involved, and that's what really takes a lot of the time. But there is a solution that simplifies the process and speeds up the timeline considerably. The folks at Bath Fitter can custom make an acrylic tub and shower wall that can go over your existing tub and surround in just one day. They start by measuring your bathtub and then create an exact replica which fits right over the old one, so there's no demolition necessary. Now, before the new tub liner goes in, the existing surfaces will be cleaned and repaired to ensure that the foundation of the whole tub is solid and that your solution will last a lifetime. And because the liner is custom fit to your tub, it's guaranteed to be watertight. The good news is that you can still change the color and design of the bathtub and the walls to something more modern that fits your style that you're looking for. In fact, Bath Fitter has a design your own bath tool on their website, so you can choose from hundreds of customization options and accessories and view them all together to ensure that your new bath is exactly what you envisioned. Now, good luck with your project, and let us know how it turns out. And to find out more about Bath Fitter, you can check them out at bathfitter.com. Right now, we want to go through our 4 seasons of home ownership fall checklist brought to you by the Home Depot, how doers get more done. And if you've been a listener for a while, you know that 4 times a year we do share with you these particular lists. And this all stems from a few years ago. Joe and I decided to try to figure out the essential things that we should recommend to homeowners that they do to their home to maintain them properly. Well, that list got pretty long, up to 40 different task, and no one would read that task. So we said, let's break it up into 4 different list and then introduce each one of them when the start of the season. And so this is the one for the fall. And in the list, once you read them and so forth, you can see that we've given this a lot of thought. We have 10 essential things that we feel like you need to do. Now, the good side is that it costs very little money to do this, and usually just a little more than a day, even though you don't have to do it all in the same day. But also we have a couple other categories when time and budget allow. So if you got a little extra time, a little more ambition there, you can go after. And then also a little something extra. We have a few things there. So, Joe, let's run down this list. And I can remind you, instead of furiously writing these things down, all you have to do is go to todayshomeowner.com/4seasons and download all of this information for free, as well as see lots of videos and articles that'll tell you exactly how to do it. And as we also mentioned a lot of times, what we're going to share with you right now might seem a little overwhelming, but many times a particular task won't apply to your particular home. So it's even more manageable. I'll start it off right now. One of the first things, and this is something that you need to do every season, is replace your air conditioning and heating system filters. And make sure when you pull that filter out of there, if you have a cavity in there, a space in there, which we call a plenum, go ahead and vacuum that out really, really nice and clean. That's the result of maybe a little bit of debris getting through the filter in some fashion, or the filter getting dirty and passing a little, and you want to go ahead and clean that up while you can. Also, outside, the leaves are going to be falling, so clean and inspect your gutters and downspouts, and just check for any repairs that you might be needed on it, because you're going to be relying on those gutters and downspouts.
Yeah, and you definitely want to do that before the weather gets too cold or the ground starts freezing, because you might be on a ladder. So, yeah, definitely inspect the gutters and downspouts, make sure they're working. And talking about leaves, you got to rake the leaves off your lawn. We were talking about that earlier. You don't want leaves sitting on your lawn all winter, because they're going to suffocate the grass and they can breed disease. So make sure you get all the leaves off your lawn.
Also, that lawnmower, you want to go ahead. It's a great time to maintain that. We mentioned in our fall tips earlier that you really should mow all year long, but you might as well use this as a good time to go ahead and drain all of the gas from your lawnmower so that that's, not oxidizing or causing a problem. And what we recommend on that is just go ahead and run all the gas out of it. Just continue mowing and so forth until all gas is out. That's the best way to do it. Use this time to tune up the the engine and also sharpen the blade so that it's ready to go when you're ready to use it next time.
And if you have single pane windows and you have to install storm windows, well, now's the time to do that, of course. So put up the storm windows and storm doors, take out the screens. In my case, I have a storm door that I leave the door in place. I just take out the screens and put in the glass. That's what most people are doing. So now's the time to do that. And also, Danny, we tell people all the time, you have to drain and flush your water heater at least twice a year. So let's do it now. It's easier to do than you might expect, and you'd be surprised what comes out of that water heater. You want to get all that dirt and debris out. And if you go to todayshomeowner.com, you can see a video and see a few articles on how to do that safely and quickly.
And if you've never done it, like Joe said, you'll be amazed at what's coming out of that hot water. So it'll make that water heater work a lot more efficiently and last a lot longer. Also, great time to test all of your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. So important that you have those positioned right. Again, we have some great guidelines on todayshomeowner.com on exactly what type to use, where to locate them, how to install them, and so forth. And the good news is, if you need to install one now, they're all lithium batteries. It'll last 10 years, so you won't have to do that again. Also, we're going to be cranking up those heaters. If you haven't already, you will soon. You want to make sure that you're not wasting any of that energy. Inspect your weather stripping and caulk around all doors and windows. Replace any of it that's necessary.
And if you have an automatic lawn sprinkler, you want to drain the irrigation system because you don't want, if you live in a cold weather area, you don't want that freezing and damaging the system. And finally, check insulation, especially in the attic. Danny and I always say the most important place to add insulation is your attic. So check the insulation in your attic and anywhere else that you can get to easily, and add more if you can.
There you go. That's the top 10 essential things on our fall checklist. Again, go download it right now. todayshomeowner.com/4 seasons. We appreciate our friends at Home Depot for making this possible. And of course, all you have to do is just drop in Home Depot to pick up anything that you might need. And again, and I'll mention some of these others if time and budget allow. Go ahead and trim some of the hedges and shrubs that you have around the house, and then pick one room in your house and repaint all of the trim. That makes it very manageable, and next fall you can paint another room trim. Also, that refrigerator, go ahead and pull it out and unplug it and clean behind it. Vacuum all of the coils, and you'd be surprised what kind of dirt is attracted by the motor and so forth of the refrigerator. That again will make that refrigerator work a lot better. Also, any dead plants you have in the garden, get rid of those. Trim those dead tree limbs. Also, caulk around the bathtub. It's a good time of the year to do that. And finally, on this particular part of the list, clean and deodorize your dishwasher by running a cycle through with white vinegar. Extremely important. Let's get to an email here. I wanted to get this about egress. It's really important. Amy from Ohio wrote in, "We have an unfinished basement that we want to convert into an extra bedroom. My neighbor told me the building inspector made them add egress windows when they did a similar project. What does that mean?" Well, Amy, that's really a pretty common question. And even though the term egress sounds a little technical, the answer is pretty simple. If an area is going to be used as living space, which applies to, offices, bedrooms, game rooms, whatever, the International Building Code says that the space must have two forms of egress or the ability to escape. So one is the stairs that lead down from the main level of the home, and the other could be a window or door that is large enough for you to get out or for a firefighter to get in with full gear in the event of an emergency. Now, because the walls of a basement are below grade, there has to be a hole or well outside each of the window locations. And one of the challenges homeowners face is how to surround this window well so the dirt doesn't collapse into it and they can get out of it if they need to. So one of the best solutions I've ever found, and really turns out to be an attractive way of doing it, is something from the Bilco companies called Scape Well. Now, it's made of high-density polyurethane. It's easy to install, requires no maintenance at all. What's really cool, it has this kind of terraced or step design that makes it really easy to climb out of, but those terraces can also be planted with flowers to give the basement something of a view. So if you want to find out more about it, they've got some great pictures on their website of the Scape Well system. So head over to Bilco, B-I-L-C-O, Bilco.com, and you'll be able to see some pictures of this. I know when we participated in in one of these builds a while back for the television show. That sure was a great addition. Just kind of made the whole basement area feel a lot larger. You got more ventilation in there, and that great peace of mind that in the events that you have to get out, whatever the emergency is, that you can go right out, climb right up. Even small kids can get out very, very easily. But great way to go if you have a basement.
Yeah, it's a little hard to describe it, but if you go to Bilco.com and check out Scape well, you'll see what we're talking about. It's unlike any window well you've ever seen, which is typically just that corrugated metal curved thing that's bolted to the house and just collects leaves. So this is a great way to go and adds a little extra safety to your home.
Let's see if we can grab a call or two here. First one is from Carla.
Danny, I have beaded cabinets, kitchen cabinets that are made of particle board. And today there was a mishap with a pot of coffee leaked, and it caused the beaded part of the cabinet to swell immensely. I've been drying it with a hairdryer, but I don't know how to fix it.
Oh, that's a tough one. I tell you, when that particle board or a composite material like that starts swelling up, you can reduce it back down a little. But, Joe, I've never seen where you could actually get it back to the regular size or really be able to repair anything like this.
No, unfortunately, Carla can use that blow dryer, the hair dryer, all she wants, but it's never going to go back to the way it was because it's just wood fibers, chips of wood that have absorbed moisture, in this case coffee, swollen, and that's it. Now, the concern here is that it's beadboard surface. If it was just a flat surface, what you do is the only real cure is to sand it flat. But if you sand it flat, of course, you're going to sand off the beads and then what? Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately, the only thing she could do is either live with it swollen and have the beads or sand it flat and lose the beads. But that's why when people are buying cabinets, first thing they look for is it particle board? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's some particle boards better than other, but it's all particle board. And, that's why if it's not plywood or at least MDF, I wouldn't even consider it for a cabinet.
Right. I'm sure sorry there, Carla, that happened, and sorry we don't have a better solution for you. Let's go to another call from Tim.
I was interested in your thoughts on where to place skylights. Should they be on the east side, west side, north side, south side? We're looking for mainly ventilation, so the vented skylights, not so much the sun. Thanks.
Okay, interesting. Trying to get a little ventilation. I'll tell you, when you have, a large room and that heat in that room rises right to the top, if you are able to exhaust that, that's pretty cool. I know I had one in one of the good Velux skylights that were solar powered. So I was able to install it, didn't have to put any kind of electrical at all, and I had the control that I could touch the button, and that thing, though it would be a little slow, but it would open completely up, allowing all of the air to go on. I also had a screen on it there, so none of the bugs would come in or anything else. And then it even had a sensor on it that if it rained, it would close itself. So that's Tim, that's a great one to consider using, one that is solar powered like that and will close itself. But Joe, in terms of the location of that, I guess some of the guidelines would say you don't want it visible from the front of the house. That would be one.
Typically, right?
Yeah. And then I guess if you were looking to, I don't know, what would you say on if first of all, you usually don't have a lot of choices because of the way the roof is built and so forth, because you want to get away from having the long light tunnels when you're doing any kind of skylight to go that. But what would you say to Tim, considering he's trying to improve the ventilation in that room?
Yeah, well, usually it depends on, I assume he wants this in a particular room, and if that room has a roof that's facing north, what are your options, right? Either not put it in or put it in, it'll be facing north. But I remember traveling down to South Carolina several years ago to visit Velux on an installation. We were doing an installation for a magazine, and I talked to them about this, and they didn't really have a definitive answer, but basically what they say is face the skylight east if you want to get warmth and light in the morning, and face it west if you want a little bit of warmth and light in the afternoon, which makes sense, right? North, and Tim mentioned he's more concerned with ventilation than light. So facing north, you'd get a constant but cool illumination. So you would get some benefit of a breeze in cooler illumination because you're facing north. and they're not getting direct sun. And of course, if you face south, you're getting direct sun. So I guess based on what Tim's looking for, I guess north would be the roof plane to install. But again, if the roof plane in the room doesn't face north, then what do you do? I'm not really sure. But if you do face it on a south plane, you're going to get more sun and heat and light than you can possibly imagine. We used to go up to Cape Cod every summer, and there was a house we used to rent, and they had skylights facing south, and it was like an oven in there. And this is Massachusetts, and so if you're down south, you'd be able to, really get way too hot. So be careful of that.
Well, they have also a number of the skylights that will produce a solar screen that you actually push a button and a solar screen goes over it. So they've addressed a lot of those issues like that. But you want to stay away from those acrylic skylights. They can be so problematic. They're tempting because they're very inexpensive. But, you're cutting a hole in your roof and, you're going to subject it to a lot of elements there. So you really need to have one that'll withstand that and have the proper flashing that's supposed to go in it. And by all means, have it installed by someone that has installed lots and lots of skylights. You don't want anybody practicing on your house when you're talking about a skylight. Time for our Best New Product segment, brought to you by the Home Depot, how doers get more done. I love it when a company finds a way to make a product that already works great work even better. That's what Mr. Clean has done with their new thin sheet Magic Eraser Scouring Sponge. They've captured the power of their popular Magic Eraser block in a thin sheet to make cleaning hard-to-reach places a lot easier. They're perfect for nooks and crannies, hard-to-reach corners, scrubbing greasy stovetops, and tough stains in microwaves. And because they're flexible, they make wiping up sticky messes even easier. Plus, just like the original Magic Eraser block, all you do is add just a little water before you start that scrubbing. So if you're facing small but stubborn messes, this may be just what you need. Head on over to HomeDepot.com to check out Mr. Clean's Thin Sheets Magic Eraser Scouring Sponge. We'd love to get an email from you. Today's homeowner.com/ask. This is one from Victoria in Virginia. Is there an easy way to get rid of the algae on my roof without damaging it? There's something that's certainly a common issue there. One of the key things, you want to trim your limbs back as much as you can because algae's growing on there because it gets wet, stays wet, and the limbs are, shading it a little bit. And Joe, I've also heard people talking about using oxygen bleach and spraying it on, of course, you got to be careful, get a good sprayer that will really project the spray, and spraying it on there seems to work pretty well.
Yeah, you mix 2 cups of oxygen bleach and 3 gallons of warm water, and you wet the roof down with a hose first, and then you apply this cleanser with a stiff bristled nylon brush and just scrub it. I would wait 20 minutes or so before you scrub it, give it a chance to work. And we'd mentioned in the past, Danny, Wet and Forget makes a product, I think it's called Extreme Reach Outdoor Cleaner, something like that. It hooks up to a hose and you spray it. That would work as well. But okay, so let's say you get it clean, then what does you do? There's obviously something that's causing this algae to grow on a roof. Cutting back the limbs and getting the sun to hit it certainly helps, hit the roof. That would certainly help. But to keep algae from growing back, you can either get a 6-inch wide strip of either zinc or copper and slide it under the row of shingles closest to the peak of the roof, and leave about 1.5 inches or 2 sticking out. And what happens is when it rains and the water washes over either the copper or the zinc, some of those metal molecules will actually wash down the roof and kill any algae. It's an amazing way that works. I'm not sure how it's worked, but it always has worked. And there's a company we've mentioned called, I think it's Shingle Shield, which makes the zinc ones. And over time, this zinc will just dissolve and you have to replace it, but it'll take several years down the road. I think it's made by a company called Chicago Metallic. But that's a good way to keep the algae from growing back.
Yeah, I've heard more and more about the zinc strips, and that just seemed like such a foreign thing, but it does work very, very well, and I'm hearing more and more people recommending that. And again, not a very expensive thing or very hard thing to install. You're just slipping those underneath that upper part of the shingle, and apparently it works. So we're certainly hearing some good feedback on that. Thinking about getting a new tub or shower, but not sure who to trust? One call to Bathfitter makes it easy, or just go to bathfitter.com. They'll install your new bath or shower in a day or less with their unique tub-over-tub process so it fits into your schedule. Bathfitter offers hundreds of design options so your bath or shower fits your style. And every high-quality tub or shower comes with a lifetime guarantee, so it fits your standards. There's a reason why over 2 million people have welcomed Bathfitter into their homes. It just fits. This is the time of the show where just push the old microphone across the country there to Joe and say, share with us a simple solution, Joe.
I'll just wait for Danny to show up. He'll be here in like 4 days. All right, Danny, when you're using portable power tools or some lawn and garden tools, they create a lot of vibration. I'm talking about like a hammer drill, impact driver, random orbit sander, that kind of thing. They vibrate so much that your hands can actually go numb, and you can get a lot of fatigue in your wrist and your fingers, and it's not a pleasant experience. And when you're using these tools, you're typically not using them for 4 minutes, right? You're usually using them for an extended period of time, and that's why this vibration is the problem. So what you could do is they actually do sell, I'm not sure if people are aware of this, they do sell anti-vibration gloves. They're typically fingerless. They do have full gloves, but I prefer the fingerless kind. You just slip them on, and on the palm, they have a thick gel pad sewn into it, which absorbs shock and vibration, greatly reduces fatigue and soreness in your hands. And what I've done is I've just taken my regular work gloves and I've slipped in a thick sponge, just any kind of sponge. The one I use was from, I usually used it for cleaning a car, right? It's like, I don't know what it is, like 1.25 inches thick, but it compresses pretty easily. So I just cut out a small enough piece, slipped it in. And it's amazing how much more comfortable that is. So try this, and you can buy the anti-vibration gloves. They start at around $15 and they go up from there. So they're pretty affordable. I use them actually when I'm using on lawn tractor as well, because there's just quite a bit of vibration, more than I would have guessed, in that steering wheel. So cut down on the vibrations, and you'll have no fatigue, and your hands won't feel like you're carrying around a bunch of bees. Sometimes I feel like you're getting stung because it just goes numb like that.
Oh, another great simple solution. I'll tell you, that's you probably right now are thinking of a lot of situations, just like I am, that you really wish you'd have had that simple solution in mind. And another great gift idea for someone, if you're looking for a birthday gift, or gift giving season will be around the corner, that is another great way to make work a little easier.
From installing a smart garage door opener, to installing a bathroom faucet, to removing a tree, the Home Depot believes you can do anything, especially the things we have how-to guides for. Visit HomeDepot.com for thousands of tips, workshops, and ideas for projects, big and small. The Home Depot app. How doers get more done.
And now it's time for our podcast question of the week. We'd love to get a question from you. You can do so by going to today's homeowner.com/podcast. This one came from Susie in Kansas. Is it necessary to use Conduit to protect electrical wiring when building a stone or brick pillar for our yard light? Well, Susie, that's a good idea. I mean, you don't technically have to. I would recommend using what's called UF Romex, which is one for direct burial that has some extra coatings around it. But, for safety's sake, and considering it's very inexpensive, I would go ahead and put the conduit in there. You can use metal conduit or the plastic conduit. It's very inexpensive, easy to get at the home center, and that gives you just a little bit of extra protection to prevent that wire from getting damaged in any way. Wouldn't you recommend that, Joe? Because it's really a pretty simple thing to route that conduit in there.
It is. The UF cable, which stands for underground feed, by the way, it is not recommended, but it is code approved for direct burial. Has to be, I think the code is 18 inches deep, but you can just dig a trench 18 inches deep and lay the cable in there. I'm not sure why anybody would do that. I would pay the extra to put it in the conduit. The plastic conduit is what I would recommend, and it's you've seen it at Home Depot. It's gray. It doesn't look like white PVC or anything like that. And it's specifically made for electrical cables. So in this case, I assume Susie's talking about the cable's already in the ground and buried, but now she's building this brick pillar. So she's probably talking just within the brick pillar. But even that, I would use the conduit. It's not going to cost that much more, and it does offer that added protection, especially if the bricks or stone shift a little bit. What if it's pretty abrasive, might have a sharp edge. What if it cuts into the cable? So I would certainly use the conduit.
There you go, Susie. Hope that helps steer you in the right direction. And it sounds like that column will be pretty attractive there in your yard. So thank you a lot for that question. And again, if you'd like to send us one, todayshomeowner.com/podcast. Always appreciate those good reviews that we're getting each and every week. And we appreciate you spending some time with us here on the Today's Homeowner podcast. I'm Danny Lipford, along with my buddy Joe Truini. We'll see you next week.